What's up, you guys? In today's video, we're going to talk about money. I'm going to talk to you about my plan to become a multimillionaire and retire by the age of 40. Let's dive in. All right, well, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. As always, I'm so grateful for you, grateful for your time and your attention. And today I want to talk to you really about my plan to retire by the time that I'm 40 years old. I might be able to do it a little bit sooner than that. It may be a little bit after, but I have a pretty clear path to retiring by 40. And I'm just going to walk through that with you today and kind of show you what that looks like. And so I'll start off by saying we have a few things happening this year in 2024 that if everything pans out as it should, and I'll know within the next couple weeks, I should, if nothing goes wrong, become a millionaire, a net worth of $1 million this year. This year in 2024, I'll be 32 years old and should have a net worth of $1 million based on all my assets minus all my liabilities. I'm really pumped about that. You know, that's something that several years ago, I was like, I know that I want to do well financially. I want to take care of my family. I want to be able to give a ton to the church and do crazy stuff. Like when people need a car, like buy them a car. Like those are all the things that have been on my mind, been in my heart. And just within the last 3 to 4 years, have we really started gaining some traction with that and with making financial ground. And so I knew this back when I was 22, 23 years old, but really for the first 5 or 6 years, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. And so I'm going to talk to you today really about how we've gotten to where we are today, how we've started to generate some wealth, how we started to make some money, how we've started to save and invest money, and then really what the path is for me moving forward to hopefully by the time I'm 40, having in between a $7 to $10 million net worth and being able to really live off of the interest of those investments. And so I want to talk to you about what your path, what your plan should look like. And obviously it looks different for everybody, but really the baseline. And so I've talked about this several times on the podcast here on the YouTube channel, but essentially the biggest thing that you have control over is your income. It's the number one wealth building tool that you have. And this is one thing that Dave Ramsey talks about. I don't agree with everything that Dave Ramsey says, but one thing that he does say that I agree with is that your income is your biggest wealth building tool. You can only cut your expenses so much. You can only go to zero, right? But your income can grow exponentially as far as you want to take it, right? Based on the skills that you have, based on the way that you help people, based on the solutions you bring to other people's problems. And so the biggest thing that you can do to reach that millionaire status is increase this gap between what you make and what it takes you to live. This is one of the things that everybody gets this wrong, and it's a huge temptation, is that the more money you make, the more money you spend. The more money you make, the nicer car that you drive. The more money you make, the bigger house that you buy. And I'll be honest with you guys, I wrestle with this a lot too. You know, I've been looking at, wanting to buy a boat and wanting to buy like an old fastback Mustang and wanting to do all these things. But the reality is as soon as you do those things, you lose the money, right? You don't have the money anymore. And so for me, instead of using earned income to go buy the stuff, what I want to do is I want to be patient, have delayed gratification, and save that money and invest that money and then go buy those things down the road off of the interest of those investments. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that their income starts to increase and their lifestyle stays right with it. And so the gap never expands. So whether you're making $40,000 a year and living off of $40,000 a year, or you make $140,000 a year and you're living off of $140,000 a year, you're in the same exact position, right? So the goal is to increase our income, maintain our standard of living, and increase this gap. And all this gap now can go to savings and investing. Okay, savings and investing. So let me tell you what really jump started my wife and I's financial life. And that was buying an old house that was run down, renovating it, and selling it. Okay, we lived in the house. We did all the renovations ourselves. It was a 3-year grind. Listen, guys, I would go to work and I would come home and I'd put on my work clothes to work. It was not easy. It wasn't something that I love, and it's not something that I want to do all the time. I don't want to keep doing that all the time. But I didn't have any money, but I had some energy and I had some time in my 20s especially. So we did that. We sold that house. We made a really good profit on that. And then we took that money, instead of paying off our cars, instead of dumping all that back into another house, we went and bought an income producing real estate property. And so I'll tell you right now, when it comes to growing your wealth, there's a few things that you need. You need business, and you need, in my opinion, real estate investing. Now, you can invest in the stock market. You can invest in your uncle's new business that he's starting up. I wouldn't recommend that. You can invest in lots of different things, but if you have a business business. You can grow that business exponentially, take any additional profits, and you can dump it into real estate. Now, I'll go over this again with you. I believe real estate is probably the single greatest investment that you can get into, and I'm going to tell you why. There are so many different benefits to real estate investing. So number one is cash flow. So let's say that you buy a property, you have a mortgage of $2,000 a month on that property, but you rent it and you make $3,000 a month on that property. Let's say after all of your other expenses, you're in it $2,500 a month, you make $3,000 a month, you're making $500 a month from that property, which you're like, Zach, that's not very much money. That's only $6,000 a year. You're right. It's not very much money, but that's not the only benefit of real estate investing. The next benefit of real estate investing is appreciation. The fact that, let's say that you bought that property and it's worth $500,000 this year. Well, let's say just for easy math, that area is appreciating 10% per year. Well, that $500,000 property is going to be worth $550,000 next year. So you earned $50,000 of unrealized income. That's not cash that you got to put in your pocket, but that value grew by $50,000 in 1 year. So a lot of you guys are out there working W-2 jobs making $50,000 a year. And if you just had a piece of property that was worth $500,000 that appreciated by 10%, you would make $50,000 in unrealized gains in 1 year. So that's the second benefit of real estate. And what's really cool about this, guys, is if you hold on to a piece of property for a long time, let's say 10 to 15 years. Like, for example, I own 2 pieces of real estate other than my personal home right now that are around $500,000 to $520,000 properties. Well, if I hold on to those, let's say just for 10 years, those will be worth $800,000 or $900,000 by the time that we get to selling that. Let's say that we want to sell it in a 10-year time horizon. So just by simply owning it, now, albeit, and this is true, you got to deal with the things that come with owning it, right? You have to deal with the renters, or you have to deal with fixing up the property, or the tree that falls through the deck, or whatever it might be, right? Those are the challenges of real estate. But in my opinion, the value of real estate and the growth potential far outweighs the challenges if you get a good deal when you buy a property. So the first benefit is cash flow. Second benefit is appreciation. And the third benefit, loan pay down. So let's say that you get a 20-year mortgage on this piece of property. Well, every year you're paying down that loan. And what's beautiful about that is you're not the one doing it. Your tenant is the one doing it. So let's say that's an Airbnb property. Your tenants are the ones that are paying down that mortgage. For me, for example, we have a property that we paid $500,000 even for. We bought this in May of 2022. So that property that I paid $500,000 for is now worth about $575,000, and we put down a $75,000 down payment on that property. So our mortgage was for $425,000. And now, after a year and a half, that mortgage is down to around $390,000, $385,000, something like that. So I've paid down the loan around $40,000 just in that year and a half. So the value gap between what it's worth and what we owe continues to do this over time. So the difference there is called equity, and that number gets added to your net worth, right? So the more equity that you have in properties, the higher your net worth. That's what is really so exponential about real estate, is that its value is going up, what you owe the bank is going down, and that difference, the equity, is growing year over year. So that's the third benefit of real estate. The fourth benefit of real estate, which is probably one of my favorites, is tax advantages. There are tax write-offs when it comes to real estate that save you a ton of money on taxes. Listen, let's say that you have a really great year and you make a lot of money. Let's say, for example, you make $200,000 a year. Based on the tax code, you're going to have to pay the government $40,000 to $50,000, right, in taxes, which isn't great, right? That's a lot of money. Just imagine the difference between keeping $40,000 or $50,000 and then giving that to the government every year. Well, that's going to add up and stack up for your net worth too, right? So one of the benefits of owning real estate, and for me, it's been owning Airbnb short-term rental real estate specifically, is that I can use depreciation, which is what the government does when they look at properties, is they say this property is going to be worn down, it's going to be worth less based on wear and tear on the property, but it's not real. Properties increase in value if you take care of them. This is one of the benefits of real estate. The government says that based on our calculations, it's going to be worth less, it's going to depreciate. So we get to write off that depreciation, and there's this thing called a cost segregation study that you can do, which will allow you to write off accelerated depreciation, which means, let's say, for example, you own a piece of real estate. The government says that the standard depreciation time frame is 27 and a half years. So you would take the value of that real estate at the moment that you bought it, you divide that by 27 and a half, and that would be how much you could write off every year for that piece of real estate. Now, the beautiful thing about accelerated depreciation is that there are things in that house that are going to depreciate or fail faster than 27 and a half years. You're going to have your appliances that fail, your air conditioner that fails, you're going to have to replace your flooring, your roof isn't going to last for 27 and a half years. So what the government allows you to do is basically say these items inside of this home are on an accelerated depreciation schedule. With that happening, it allows you to write off a huge chunk of the depreciation within your first year of owning it. So we bought a $500,000 property, and then I was able to write over $200,000 off on that property. My tax return shows that we took a $200,000 loss on that property. And what's really cool about that with short-term rental is that I can now look at my W-2 and my earned income from everything that I do, from running my woodworking business, for me working at the church, and for me also doing the coaching and consulting work that I do for you guys. And I can say, okay, I made all this money doing all these things, but I took this huge loss from accelerated depreciation, and I can offset my active income and pay no taxes. And so that's one of the biggest benefits of real estate. So this is one thing that allows you to keep the money that you make. So that's how I've gotten to where I am. So I'm almost a millionaire at this point. I'm not quite yet, but I'm really close. So the number one thing that you can get control of is your income, your expertise. Income is your number one wealth building tool that you have. An easy way to get started is buy something run down. Buy something that you can add value to. Buy a home that you can remodel. If you want, you can live in it. Get a partner. Find somebody that will go in on this with you and start learning. Like, guys, I'll just tell you, probably 80% of what we did to remodel that home that got us jump started, I didn't know how to do, but I YouTubed it. I figured it out. I was over here literally soldering copper on new hot water heaters, right? Doing stuff that I'd never done in my life, just because I was like, hey, I want to learn. I want to know how to do this. I saw this video the other day, and this guy says, I'm a real estate buyer, not a real estate seller. And this is one of the things that's resonating with me is when you buy a piece of real estate, buy it right and keep it. Hold on to it. Don't let go of it, because the way that you make all that money is by allowing that gap between what it's worth and what you owe the bank to continue to grow. Now, one thing that I don't agree with Dave Ramsey is he's like, pay cash, pay cash. You want to pay cash for everything. If you can't pay cash, don't buy it. Well, you lose a ton of benefits with real estate if you go just pay cash. Now, you do get peace of mind. You don't have to worry about owing anybody anything, which is very true. And I think that's what, for most average Americans, that's not a bad idea. But how long is it going to take you to save $300,000 to go buy a piece of real estate? It's going to take you a long time, right? But you could put $25,000 or $30,000 down and get into that piece of real estate and start reaping all the benefits of having it. Even though you have a mortgage on it, you can get all the benefits of owning it. For me, this is the path moving forward. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. We're going to have a lot of liquid cash money. And one of the worst things that you can do is just let it sit in a savings account. If you just have money sitting in a savings account, guys, you're losing money. Inflation right now is as high as it's ever been. It's 6 to 8 to 10% a year. And if you have money sitting in a savings account drawing 0.001% interest, you're literally losing 6% a year, because everything's going to cost more, 6, 8, 10% more next year than it does this year. If you have money sitting and you don't know what to do with it yet, you want to get that into something, into a vehicle that's going to at least make the inflation rate at minimum to keep up with inflation. If you can find something else that's going to allow it to grow even faster, I would encourage you to do that. I actually found this really cool thing. It's called NERP, where it's a Forex trading algorithm that you can make anywhere from 5 to 10% per month by putting your money in this. Now, it does cost a little bit to check it out, to get into it, but I've been super impressed with the rate of return with my money that I've put inside of this, and I think that it could be something beneficial for you. If it's something you want to check out, I'm going to put a link to that in the description below. You can hop on a call with them, see if it's something that works for you. It's expensive to get started, but if you have a bunch of money laying around that's not making you any money, it could be making you several $1,000s a month by sitting in this account. But essentially what you want to do is you want to increase the gap between how much you make and what it takes you to live. You want to put that money into some type of vehicle that's going to not just sit stagnant, sit still, but it's going to be a growing mechanism, okay? For me, this is the NERP program. And then when you find a good real estate deal, you're going to pull that money and park it in that real estate and then reap all the benefits of that real estate. And you're just going to wash and repeat that again and again and again. It shouldn't be exciting. It should be pretty boring. But the idea here, guys, is that eventually, once you have 4, 5, 6 properties, which I'm on my way there, once you have 4, 5, or 6 properties and you start having all this equity in your properties, you can start using equity from those properties to buy more properties if you want to. There's so many things that you can do. And ultimately, you can get to where you have 8 or 10 properties and you just pay them all off. If you want to just pay them all off and sit there, and you're going to have a ton of cash spitting your way from those 8 or 10 properties. So my goal in my life is to retire by the time I'm 40. I'm 32 right now. I'll become a millionaire this year, but it's been been a grind, y'all. I've been working hard at it now, reading books, learning, failing miserably since I was 22, 23 years old. And that's the last thing I'll say about this is if you are serious about trying to grow your wealth, it's going to take a lot of knowledge that you don't currently have. You're going to have to read, you're going to have to find people that are doing what you want to do, and you're going to have to figure out a way to start making progress. Guys, I'll tell you, the best way to do it is to get a partner, bring the sweat equity on a real estate deal, and start increasing the value in that. And you can, let's say you can buy a property for $125,000. You go in and you work on it for 6 months, really fix it up, make it look nice. You could turn around and sell it for $225,000, split the proceeds with your partner, your initial partner, and then from that point, go do it yourself. You don't have to have the partner. Let's say you needed a money partner, you didn't have the money to begin with, then go do it yourself again and just rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And guys, you can become wealthy if you just stay diligent. That's the main thing. Save money. Don't save it for the sake of saving it. Save it to invest it. Make more, save more, invest more. Just keep doing that again and again and again until you have a lot of assets and you're reaping all the benefits of those assets. I know this is a woodworking business channel. Your woodworking business can absolutely be a vehicle to spit off a ton of cash to you if you do it right. If you really learn the business principles, your woodworking business can absolutely be a vehicle to help you do that. With that being said, guys, hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And if you're trying to grow your woodworking business or you just want general advice around money and finance to just see what I've done as just a normal person and how you can do it too, be sure to follow, be sure to subscribe, be sure to like this video so we can get in front of more people. So with that being said, love and appreciate you all. I'll see you in the next one.